after all that, I'm busy. I've got a counselling practice now in Mosfart.
Ah, cool.
So I'm building that up and learning a lot.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of the back end kind of stuff that needs to be done when you're setting up your own business. It's the first time I've ever worked for myself.
Yes, any small business people listening know exactly how much work that is.
Yeah.
So that's a big change from your previous role at the Hume Conservatorium. So what I suppose inspired that step into a more therapeutic realm?
Well, it was actually something that I was always going to do. I think that people that have been involved with the conservatorium, or at least fellow workmates, will be aware that I got a Masters of Counselling degree before I came up here.
Yep.
And with a plan of starting a practice in Melbourne back then, but one thing led to another, and that never happened, and I ended up coming up here to work at HumeCon, and promised myself that I would go back to that once my time there had finished. So I'm following through with that, and it's, I've got to say, the world has changed, and I think I'm probably quite a different person to the one I was 12 years ago.
We'd hope so.
I think so, and that's proved to be interesting. I'm in reflection, I'm glad I didn't start then. I think I've got a lot clearer focus on what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and particularly the niche areas of my practice that I'm very passionate about. So I think everything has its time, I think, and you've just got to be brave enough to do it.
And I do think that we're in a time culturally where the arts are being seen in the way that they help us deeply on a human level. And so I love that that's now becoming core to what you're doing with your community.
Well, that's right. It's multifaceted, though. I think one of the things that has really concerned me, on the flip side of that, is what you would be very much aware of, is how it's always been challenging and quite not just financially and sort of energy strenuous, but mentally and emotionally strenuous and challenging to work in the arts and to establish an arts career. And when it all came down to it, I was reflecting on this before I really made the decision to do this. Over the years, I mean, I've been working in the arts industry for more than 4 decades now, and a lot of that in leadership positions and teaching roles. And there are probably hundreds of people out there in the industry who I'm proud to say that I was a part of their journey. I'm not saying it's all about me, but I think I gave them the opportunity to see themselves in the context of being able to have a career in the arts, and a lot of them have followed through that. But now I'm sort of at the point of feeling a little bit guilty about it, because I think COVID in particular has made it so incredibly difficult. Even if you're an established practitioner in the arts, no matter what you do, the challenges are immense on every level. I don't know any person involved in the arts who hasn't been affected in some way.
No, you're absolutely right.
And so I'm really concerned about mental health, well-being, resilience in that space, and that's why I feel really drawn to trying to make a contribution in that way, trying to make a difference, and sort of look at it from the other end, thinking, well, I got all these people sort of, passionate about doing a career in the arts. It's my bloody fault and I need to fix it. But I know that's not true. But at the same time,
be part of the solution.
I could sit. You can sit there from the sidelines bemoaning what's happening, and there's enough written about the state of funding for the arts generally, that to sink a ship. And we don't need to go into that, but you know what.
That's another conversation.
You know what we're talking about, and it really, I think you have to be in an incredibly strong frame of mind to make sense of it, to hold on to the passions and motivations that you had for starting on the journey as a creative person, or in any aspect, not just the creatives who are at the front of it, but the people supporting it in management and all of the aspects. It's just been an incredible wake-up call all round, and it's still evolving. I think we're still starting to realise what it's going to take for the arts to thrive in Australia. I'm not going to talk about the world.
Or even locally.
Yeah, and even exactly.
Yeah.
And certainly regionally. It's
and it's what we've both dedicated our lives to in a way, Paul, as well.
That's right.
So close to our hearts.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at what the wonderful stuff that's happened in Goulburn, where there has been funding given, there's a whole new infrastructure around the cultural life of Goulburn and surrounds, and that's great. But if there's no care for the people involved in it, ultimately they're just buildings. There has to be a strength and a resilience and resources that people can draw on if they're really struggling, or they feel like they're losing their way, or they're losing motivation, or they need support, or just sometimes it's just a matter of sitting down and talking through the problems in a relaxed environment. So,
because I love the idea that not only have you got all those the therapeutic skills and expertise, but you intimately understand the very specific issues, concerns, problems of being a creative in our culture, whether it's how you make your bread and butter or whether it's how you feed your soul. Both are sometimes intertwined as well. So that's quite an extraordinary thing to be able to offer, Paul.
It's true, and I think there's an inherent and very intense bravery required when you are ultimately the product that you are, I don't want to say it, but selling. You are your own product. So you're always putting more on the line, I think, on a very sort of fundamental level, in terms of who you are. Because if it isn't going well, or if you're not being supported, it feels really personal. And
because it is really personal.
Well, it has to be, because that's what you're doing. You're trying to make that personal contribution that makes a difference, I guess, or communicates in a way that is important, that has a message, and it's a universal thing. Also, I want to say that it doesn't matter how young or how old you are, or what your ethnicity is or your background is. If you're working in the arts, you're putting yourself on the line, and that requires, by its very nature, every bit of support you can give it.
Yeah, so true. And it's just lovely that now, I think your practice is in Moss Vale, is that right?
That's right, yep. I'm practicing in Moss Vale. I'm also, me being me, combining it with some still doing some teaching of singing, because I enjoy that. And I'll probably continue to do that in Goulburn and in Moss Vale. But the Moss Vale practice is lovely. I've been very lucky to find a beautiful space to practice, and I'm really amazed by the amount of support that I've both found and received. It's really incredible, the support that's out there, and it's good to be learning lots of new things. It's good to know that my brain still functions.
Yes, that is
most
days. Then you give it some time off.
Yeah. Although I'm having to learn my own database, it serves me right after all these years.
Goodness, database.
Oh my God.
And the music as well as the singing, the piano playing, which we were lucky enough to get a little